started. Sorry if I alarmed you. But thank you guys so much for coming this evening. This is one of our I think our favorite panels because we have so many panelists here, and we love to see guests coming to the university to talk about the programs that they offer. There's such great opportunities for all of you, so we're really excited and thrilled that they all could make it tonight, and that you could make it tonight. So this is the Teaching and Volunteering Abroad panel, and it's part of the International Career Pathways series, which has been going on throughout September and October, and it's wrapping up in November. So if you're not familiar with this, check it out on our website, and there are a couple of really great opportunities coming up yet this semester. Tomorrow, in fact, is the International Opportunities Fair, happening just upstairs from 2 to 6 in the ballroom. So all of these people will be represented there. I think all of you will be represented there except for Princeton Asia. And there'll be, I think, close to 50 other organizations there. So be sure to stop by. Lots of really great information there for you to pick up. So just to introduce myself really quickly, my name is Audrey Busfall, and I work in the International Center in the Global Community Engagement Office. And we work primarily with education abroad, study, work, and travel. We do a lot of advising for students interested in internships, working abroad while they're here at the university, as well as when they graduate. And so this is something that is near and dear to the University of Michigan's heart. There's a long history here of students working during their time here, doing internships or teaching or volunteering. It's something that has become very popular in the field, but it's been happening a really long time here at Michigan. So we hope that you will continue this legacy. Currently we have about 1,200 UM students and recent grads who do internships and volunteer work abroad. So if you're interested in doing these kinds of things, and we don't have a ton of time today to really dive into each of these individual programs, and obviously the ones that you might run into tomorrow. So if you'd like a little bit more guidance on how to select a program that might work for you, please do check us out at the International Center. We advise one-on-one with students every day to find the best programs that'll work for you, either next semester, the summer, and beyond. So tonight we have a really, really great array of organizations represented here. We have lots of, everyone here is either do both volunteer or teaching or service or internships or all three. So we'll let them just dive right in, and I'll give you a short little sneak peek into what we asked the panelists, so you can see. We'll save questions for the end because we don't have a ton of time. So start thinking about them and maybe write them down. But we've asked them to all sort of just give a brief overview of the type of opportunities that their organization or program offers. And then we'd like them to address any sort of fees required to participate in the program, any sort of support that is offered by the program, and then what in general people should consider when they're considering volunteering or teaching abroad. So the first four presenters that you'll hear from today represent organizations that offer short-term volunteer or internship abroad opportunities, and some of these also include teaching. And these are unique opportunities because they can often be flexible in terms of their start date and the duration. So they can actually work perfectly for current or returning students as well as graduating seniors or graduate students. So we'll start first with Teague Cudahy from World Endeavors, and then we'll go on to Via Mendelson from Experimental Programs by API, and then Carlton Rounds at Cross Cultural Solutions, and then Diane Maskey, who's representing Child Family Health International. So take it away.
Great. I'm Teague. I'm from World Endeavors. Oh,
yeah.
Can you guys all hear me okay?
Actually, for the video.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. It's on. Okay. All right. Is this a little better? Oh, I think this will be fun. I'm Teague. I'm from World Endeavors. We do intern, study, and volunteer abroad, but for today we'll just be focusing on volunteer and intern. So we started in 2002 just offering volunteer programs in Nepal, And since then we've grown to over 20 different countries for intern and volunteer abroad. We're based in Minneapolis, but we work with participants all over the world, a lot of US students and non-students as well. We really focus on customized programs and a lot of experiential education programs. And so kind of what that means is we focus on a lot of cultural immersion and customizing your program so that if you just have time for a 2-week volunteer program, we can make that work. Or if you want to commit 6 months, up to 6 months for an internship, we can also work with that. So with fees, we do require fees for all of our programs, but we try to keep costs as low as possible so that as many people can participate while still covering all of the essentials to go abroad. With that, housing is always included. We do a lot of homestays for volunteer opportunities, volunteer housing as well, and some of our internships kind of focus more on shared apartments. So it's a good way to get to know other interns, other students your age, who are also looking for that educational experience. And we also offer a lot of scholarships as well to help keep that cost low and as affordable as possible. But ultimately, we really focus on that unique and cultural immersion aspect. As far as support, we offer support all throughout the process. Beforehand, you'll have one dedicated advisor throughout the process, helping you prepare, kind of knowing what to expect beforehand as far as knowing what to expect as a volunteer or intern abroad, what to expect in the particular country you chose, some do's and don'ts, and advice from previous participants. We give you what's called our pre-departure handbook. It's kind of a lengthier document with a lot of the suggestions and those do's and don'ts that I mentioned. But we try and give it to you guys as soon as possible so you have plenty of time to read through it. I know that with classes and everything, schedules get really busy, and so certainly giving that preparation as early as possible is good. During the program, we have an in-country coordinator who's there with you, always there 24/7 support, who knows the area and can guide you to whatever you need, always there in an emergency as well. And then when you come back, we also offer re-entry services and advice for how to incorporate this experience into your careers and your endeavors moving forward. Ultimately, I think it's really good to keep an open mind and a serving heart when choosing a program. As far as volunteering, it's all about helping those in need and giving back to the community. With internships, it's a little bit more about being flexible and really grabbing that educational experience. Really getting immersed in the culture while also moving forward in your career, or checking out a new career that you might have in mind. As everyone knows, with travel, sometimes plans don't always go according to plan. So it's good to keep some flexibility, but it also gives such great opportunities for growth. So that's a little bit about World Endeavors. Yeah, thanks.
I feel like I should tell a joke. Everyone's really serious and quiet. Actually, I will say one thing. So when I got off the plane in Detroit a few hours ago, I was doing what everyone on the plane was doing, which is checking Facebook. And I saw that today is sort of a historical day. What is today? Back to the Future Day. This is the day that's like so far in the future, right? That they went to 30 years in the future. And so I was driving here, feeling philosophical in the car, and I was thinking, 1985, what was I doing? Most of you, all of you were not alive. I was alive. I was considerably shorter. I was in elementary school. But I think if I had thought at that time about what I'd be looking at 30 years from then, I would have had no idea how my life would go. And I think that for me, the defining moment was 20 years ago. I realized this today too. This is my 20th anniversary of my first study abroad experience. So that kind of set everything in motion for me. That decided how I wanted to finish my studies, that decided how I wanted to do my grad work, that decided where I wanted to go professionally. The organization that I'm with, Academic Programs International, started as a primarily study abroad organization. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary as well, and I've been with them for about 11 and a half years. And I just took over in August for their experiential learning programs, which are teaching, work, and volunteer programs. So it's kind of the other non-academic side, so it's new for me still. But I think that my dream for you, this is my international pep talk before I get into the nuts and bolts, my dream for you is that 30 years from now, if you're sitting in front of a group of people, you're telling stories about where you've been and who you met and what you learned and what new skills and knowledge you gained along your way, and not you're kind of sitting there thinking, well, I kind of missed that chance and I didn't do that thing and I wish I'd done that other thing. And so my pitch is, whether you go with me or you go with them or you go with someone that you meet tomorrow or you go with your own, organized program, just go. That's what we all want. Every person up here wants that for you, to just go have that experience, have it be the first or the second or the third of many, many experiences. So I will tell you about our programs though, since that's why we're here. So the opportunities I wanted to highlight are our teach and volunteer programs. Our most popular programs are the teach programs that are generally going to be for people who have already graduated. So some of you might not be there yet, but you might be thinking about this into the future. We have options in Asia, in China, Thailand, and Vietnam. We have options in Latin America, in Colombia, and in Mexico. The Colombian program is our biggest program right now. It's really interesting. It's actually subsidized by the Colombian government. It's part of their goal to have the entire population have at least some level of functional English proficiency by 2025. So they are funding part of that. So we were talking about fees. We're going to talk about that a little later. The only fee for that program is the application fee. There's no program fee. And then once you're there, they're paying you a living stipend as well. So there are ways to get there that are not expensive. Those are all pretty much for postgrads. The one teaching program that we have that might work for someone who's still in school is a program that we have in Costa Rica that's new, that I think of more as a teaching practicum. It's fewer hours per week. You're with a lead teacher who's supervising your work, helping you plan lessons, supporting you with that. Classes are Monday through Friday, so you have the weekends free to travel, and you don't have to have your degree yet. All those other teach programs require your degree to already be completed. So you can fit that in, maybe during the summer if you have time for that. The other programs I wanted to mention are volunteer abroad programs. They range anywhere from 1 week to several months, just depending on what fits into your schedule. The way that they're structured, the first week tends to be the bulk of the cost, and then adding on weeks is much less expensive as you go. So if you can get there for 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to get a lot more for your money. You're getting the guaranteed placement before you go, you're getting your housing, you're getting meals. A lot of times you're living with a local host family or you're living with other volunteers. We're giving you unexciting but useful things like health and medical insurance, and also all of the pre-departure and in-country support that you would get with most programs. And then when you get back as well, the re-entry and the networking support. Much in the same way, we customize the placements to the individual. So we don't have a job profile or a volunteer profile, and we're looking to fit you into that. One of the first parts of our placement process is a 30-minute Skype interview with our program coordinator, and she's talking to you about what your learning goals are for the program, what skills you're bringing to it, what your background is, what you want to get out of it. And based on those things, we're looking for a placement that fits you. So it's very customized, it's very individualized in that way. So there are fees, as I said. There's the application fee, and then most of the programs do have a small program fee. The teach programs all have a salary, so by the time you're partway into the program, you've kind of leveled off with what you already invested, and then you start making money. And then the Colombia program, I think, is one of the most exciting programs. It actually starts with a 2-week orientation outside Bogota that includes teaching English as a foreign language training already. So if you've never done that before, it helps you get the basics on how to start that, and you also have a week of orientation in your placement city, and then you are launched, and you have your classroom, and you're going. What else? Okay, I'm going to go back to the big picture. So what should you be considering? I would say these are the big questions. These are the big areas that I would consider whether I was looking at studying, interning, volunteering, or teaching abroad. And they are what, where, how long, and how independent. So first you're looking at what do you want to be doing? What do you want your day to look like? What are your goals? What are you hoping to gain from this program? Where do you want to be? Is there a specific place in the world that's drawing you, that you're curious about, that you're passionate about? That you might have to balance those out, because if you have a very specific what, it might not fit with your where, and so you have to kind of be thinking about those. How long do you have? Obviously, I think we would all say the longer the better, but if all you have is winter break or spring break or a little bit of time in the summer, just make it happen where you can fit it in with your circumstances. And then how independent are you? Have you traveled before? If so, maybe you can go for a program that has less included, that's less expensive. If not, you might really want that safety net of 24/7 emergency support in the country with you to kind of fall back on if the worst should happen. So, that's all. Please go somewhere.
Is that me?
I'm going to pass the mic down.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Carlton, and I am the Director of Campus Engagement for Cross-Cultural Solutions. And I like your approach because thinking about where I was in 1985, I was just finishing high school. And Laura Ingalls Wilder, she was finishing with me. I'm just kidding. It's not that. That was 1885.
But you never have to know Laura Ingalls Wilder.
That's true. Lots of McCreary. Yeah, there's so many different and wonderful opportunities to experience, have an international experience, and I'm not personally of the philosophy that any one is better than the other. I think that each person's story and narrative is really different, and that you have to, the better you are with listening to that inner voice, probably and trusting that. My feeling about that is it'll make you a better volunteer. Because there's always a certain amount of fake it till you make it in every situation. You always have 3/4 of what you need. You're going to teach, but they forgot the blackboard. What do? Well, you don't call home and you don't complain because those kids are staring at you. You realize, all right, we're playing in the dirt. And something comes out of that that's really remarkable. And you learn that you are not limited by your circumstances. Coming from levels of privilege and access, we're used to doing a lot with a lot. And being able to be in parts of the world where people don't start from that place, where they do a lot with a little, it's humbling and remarkable to watch. And to realize that sometimes the stuff that we carry around in our heads and in our backpacks are obstacles to actually being change agents in the world and change agents for ourselves. So at the same time that you're on these experiences, you're going to support, you're going to learn. It's kind of about you. You're going for yourself. There's some reason why you are going. You are going to reap a benefit from this. That's okay. It's okay to say there's something in it for me. By acknowledging that, it allows you also to sort of put a top on it and say, now how am I going to get the most for me? And that means sometimes subjugating your ego in service, working at other people's direction, and building relationships with the communities where you work. I always say over and over again that relationships are the currency of change. If you go to a therapist, if you go to a doctor, your best friend, the grocer who has really good tomatoes or really crappy tomatoes, if you don't have a relationship, you're going to get the crappy tomatoes. So when you are an international person, and this is why when you look back, it's so profound. So many things that have happened in my life, I can track back to being absolutely almost in a meltdown stage in Guatemala in 1988, over my head in my first international exchange because I didn't realize that it was the Civil War, and I went down thinking, oh, I'm just going with my friend. And seeing things I never anticipated, and having to come home and reconcile what I had seen. And that changed everything. Changed my major. I took a semester off of school because it was so traumatizing. I saw people shot, thrown into pits. It was bad. That being said, after I sort of got through that and processed it, all I wanted to do was go again. Because it forced me to think deeply about where I was from. And home never looked the same. And then I would go out again and come back, and go back out again and come back. So each time, that journey home was a journey home to a place that I was, again, looking at almost for the first time. No matter how many times I've gone, it's the same story. What I love about where I work, Cross-Cultural Solutions, is that I get to help other people do this. And Cross-Cultural Solutions is about 20 years old, one of the leading organizations in international volunteer service, and best practices, and we have a special charter with the United Nations, and we have volunteer and intern opportunities on every continent. You can choose when you want to go, you can choose how long you'd like to go, and you can focus in specific areas. So if you imagine where we work in areas that are where populations are very vulnerable. So we have home bases wherever we work. That's not to exclude you and other you from the community, but we need to maintain and manage the footprint of the volunteers in country. And I'll tell you why. I was in South Africa one time, and I was in one of the townships, and I saw all this stuff that needed to be done. And I said to a woman who was there, I said, God, we could really use some volunteers, I bet. And she said to me, oh Lordy, no, we cannot afford them. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, they come here and they think they're going to help, and they say, oh, I can sleep on the floor and I'm fine. And then they get a cold and they get sick, and they can't go to our hospital. We have to get them all the way into town, Cape Town. And they're sick, they don't really know where they are, and we don't want them to be ill, so we pulled all of our money to put them in a taxi to send them into Cape Town. Well, they just spent their entire month's salary, and the volunteer leaves. And it was an interesting learning for me that the consequences of people's good intentions can be disproportionately harmful to vulnerable communities. So our whole gig at Cross-Cultural Solutions is maintaining that footprint. So we make sure that we have 24-hour security, we have a doctor on call, because you're there to work. So if you're sick, you're a lousy volunteer. We want to get the chicken soup in you and whatever you needed so you can get back up and go serve. We work with women's groups, children, special education facilities. Let's see, Mother Teresa's Home for the Destitute and Dying, that's where I did some service. They stuck me in the laundry because I was a guy and I was tall. And I thought they were giving me a strange secret Catholic test. But they weren't. It was just that I could hang the laundry higher. Let's see. So food is home cooked. Everyone who works in country is from the community, and we're permanent. So there's not somebody from Minnesota running a program in Tanzania, unless they're Tanzanian. Because we want to make sure that we're saying that it's the right of the individuals in their own community to transfer their culture, to teach. The other thing that I'm really proud about, and this is something I would say look into, is we are not the least expensive program out there. However, we hand place you. We assign a specialist to your process before you leave, which can take months for some people, who is an expert of the area you're exactly going, and they prepare everything for you. But we have zero turnover, which means our country directors have been our country directors for years because they're local, they're paid a respectful salary, and we're not running programs off the cheap labor of foreign people. And I'm really proud of that because this is not enough that we don't talk about this enough, I think, in the field. Where X university will bring 15 or 20 students to a foreign country, and it'll be a huge amounts of dollars in order for them to go, and the person who's in that country will be paid $200 in order to be like the leader for the entire group. I find that colonizing and inappropriate. So what I love about CCS is our country directors are the top in their field. They're invested, they're from the community, so when we go to our partners and say, we have a student coming who's a social work student or a public health student or special education, and we're wondering if you can make space for them in your organization while they're here for a month or two. We don't pay them to take you, so they can say no, or they can say, yeah, sure. And when you're permanent and you're respected and they know that you respect them, your placements are just deeper and better. And I love it that my country director's kids have health insurance. You know, they are the best in the field, and that's why the quality of the programs are so high, and I'm really proud of that. I'm also really proud of the fact that we decided in the mid-2000s to retrofit almost all of our sites in country. And we did this because we wanted to make sure that all people, no matter what their mobility challenges may be, would have the same opportunities to serve. And I'm really proud that we did that. So I got to climb Machu Picchu with a friend who uses a chair. So how we did that is another story. But we did it together, and that's because there was accommodation for him to participate. Country directors are your mentors, as well as the people where you're placed. And areas of focus are, ready? My glasses. Medical, nursing, dental, public health, women's health, social work, physical and occupational therapy, child development, education, special ed, community-based gerontology, social entrepreneurship and business, international development, human rights, and environmental sustainability. We have an option also in order to make cost a little bit more sensitive, because we want you to stay later, and like your program, for our program, the majority of expense is recouped in the first couple of weeks. That's like printing these and having phones and stuff like that. Every week you stay after 2 is like a couple of $100 more. So we want you to stay as long as possible. And because we're a nonprofit, if you fundraise, and we'll help you do that, we're tax deductible too. I think that's it for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys. So I wasn't around in 1985 like everyone else is here, but I think what's really interesting, me being up here with people who really do, work with the companies. I'm just a student here. I did a program 3 years ago with Child Family Health International, also known as CFHI. And what they're talking about that they experienced 30 years ago, I really did experience just 3 years ago. And I think it has truly shaped my college experience and what I've decided to go into and what I've decided to pursue here at Michigan. So I hope a lot of you guys are, as Avi, right? What's her name? Via. But as Via said, I hope that you guys just want to get involved and you guys want to go on one of these programs, because it truly was one of the greatest decisions I made after my freshman year. But CFHI is a really unique global health program. You can label it in many different ways. It's a global health internship, a clinical elective for some people because you can go during your graduate schooling. Obviously for college students, it really is a global health internship. And depending on how much time you have and how long you want to be there, the programs range from 4 to 16 weeks, and it's very flexible on the arrival date and what you want to do there. So just coming from my experience in Argentina, I was working with a primary care in the social medicine, so I was placed in a community-based hospital. And I learned so much about the healthcare there that I would never have been able to learn just by studying it. Actually being immersed in a different healthcare system I think was one of the most fascinating things I have had the opportunity to do yet as a college student. In addition to Argentina, there are 9 other countries, and I will just quickly list those. Bolivia, Ecuador, Mexico, Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, South Africa, India, and the Philippines. And so each of these countries offers different types of programs depending on what you're interested in. There is a dental program in India. As I went on, there's a primary care program in South America and also in Mexico. Each program in each country offers a different type of medicine that you can be immersed in. So that's a really exciting part. Some of the countries even have multiple programs depending on where, like what type of medicine you want to experience. So the program cost, what's cool about CFHI is that they really practice asset-based community development. So most of the program cost that you are given is given back to the community that you are working with as a way to basically subsidize anything you've done there. They are really reaping the benefits. So it's not just you coming in and being a volunteer, but you're helping them build up their hospital and build what they have as well. So you're not just going in and having like a crash course, you're going in and making what you're helping them with is sustainable, which is a really, really key part to a health education program in my opinion. It's really important to go in and help create something for that country and for that city that is going to be something that they will be able to use from then on. It being sustainable is why I chose CFHI, and a lot of the other programs up here are also very sustainable in that country. So that is something you should definitely be thinking about when you choose a program. Some of the amenities that can come with CFHI is that you have 24/7 emergency response. A lot of the students who go with CFHI are college students, and it is their first international experience. So for me, that was really comforting, knowing that if anything did go wrong, they were there to help. Back in San Francisco, where the headquarters are, they are really on call all the time if anything goes wrong. I actually worked for them after I went abroad with them. So I really witnessed it firsthand, just how much they put into each of their programs and how whenever any students are abroad, they want to make sure that you are having the experience that you want to be having. And if anything is going wrong, you can contact them and work with them to create the program you want. This was an amazing experience because I really liked what I was doing, but also wanted to be involved when I was in Argentina with a more rural hospital. And so we were able to take a trip out to that hospital and see how that worked and see the differences between the rural and the city hospital. So those kind of experiences are like very, very unique because you can really tailor the program to what you want it to be. Some of the other notable parts of CFHI is that once you return, they have a very, very tight-knit alumni group, basically. Even just this summer, they had a meetup in San Francisco with a bunch of different alumni, and you can see, where those alumni are and what they have done with their global health experience and if they've continued with it, which I think is a really special part because it keeps you always connected to a group of people who are especially interested in global health and really serving and helping the people in the specific countries. So I find that a fascinating part. In addition, when you are there, they have local directors in each city, and they are employed by CFHI. They live there. They are experts of the city, and they are there for you on the ground the whole time. And I learned so much from my local director, just about the culture, about what you can do in the city. They are really there to make it the program you want it to be. In some of the Spanish-speaking countries, a great thing that they offer are Spanish classes. So when I was in Argentina, I took 30 hours of Spanish class, which I went in pretty proficient, but it was a great way to learn about, the unique parts of the Spanish language in Argentina, which I wouldn't have known otherwise if I had not been exposed to these early on in my program. So that's a great part that I really enjoyed about my program. In addition, they provide basically, when you come back, you have you can talk to them about your experience, and then they will put you in contact if you ever want to go on another experience. Actually, the summer after, I went back to India, but not through them. I created my own internship, and they put me in contact with their on-the-ground people in India in case I needed any help. So they really are there for you, and they want you to stay connected with CFHI, which is a really, really positive part of my experience with them. And just kind of more broadly about why you should be considering a global health experience and what you want to be doing with it. How I chose mine was I am interested in healthcare, so I knew that I wanted to go to, I wanted to do one with healthcare. I know lots of people are interested in teaching as well, so that's another thing you should be considering. If you want to go into a hospital, want to go into a classroom, those are really important aspects that you should be considering when thinking about a program. But yeah, I really just think that going abroad is something that I'm very happy I did, and I hope everyone in this room does too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So our final three speakers tonight represent organizations and programs that are slightly different than the ones that you just heard. They also do volunteering and teaching opportunities, but they're primarily for postgraduates, and they often require at least a bachelor's degree. So in these cases, I think all three of these organizations and programs provide really great teaching opportunities to teach English and possibly other things as well. So if you are interested in preparing to teach English as a foreign language, on your handout that you may have grabbed on the way in, the University of Michigan offers TOEFL certification, or ELI. It offers courses to help prepare to teach English as a foreign language. There are other opportunities like the International TOEFL Academy, CIEE, and other organizations as well. So we'll just get started. The first person I think we'll start off with tonight is Oakley Strasser. She's actually a student here, and she's representing Princeton, Asia. And then we'll have Ben Morris, also a student here from our Peace Corps office. And then finally we'll have Stephen Bush from the CIEE Teach Abroad and Internships Program.
Princeton and field office in Singapore. But it is different than the four things we just heard about. Like, this is a job, so they're setting you up with the job, and then if there's like an earthquake or a disaster, sure, call them on the 24/7 line and they'll get you out. But like, other than that, most of your support will come from the organization that you're working for. Your mentorship, your country orientation, that sort of thing will come through that, just as the same as if you like moved to New York City for a job after graduating from here. So the partner institutions provide a supportive working environment, mentorship, a comfortable living stipend. Fellows do pay a placement fee. It's $500. I don't even remember paying that, but it's easily covered by your first month's stipend. And sometimes you also have to pay for airfare. But again, PI, like other organizations mentioned, PIA really wants to make this financially feasible. They offer scholarships. They offer interest-free loans. They want everyone to be able to do it who wants to. That covers about 10% of your placement fee. Let's see, yeah, talked about those things. Just to emphasize, there's a lot of ways that you can go abroad and teach abroad afterward in a professional capacity. I would say what sets PIA apart from things like Peace Corps or Fulbright, that sort of thing, is that it's got a really kind of traditional feel. It's Asia specific, and it really does feel like a family. There's 3,500 alumni who are like super involved. Like, anytime I've needed a job or like been traveling someplace new, I've always used the PIA network, and it also makes for a really wonderful experience when you are abroad. I visited PIA fellows in lots of different places and never had to pay for a hotel, and always had a local tour guide, so you weren't just like stuck on the banana pancake trail in Thailand. You actually like saw things and like experienced the place. So that's kind of a brief overview, recap. Princeton in Asia, application due in November, a couple of essays and a video. Really, really great way if you're looking for something to do after graduation that involves adventure, travel, and real life work experience to get all of those things. And if you have any questions, I'll be here for a little bit, or you can email PIA.
All right. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of trivia. I have a really fancy little luggage tag here that I want to give out. So, who can tell me what event went down last week here at the University of Michigan to celebrate Peace Corps? Yeah.
The 55th anniversary.
Ding, 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 ding. Here you go.
Oh, that was.
So last week we had a bunch of events to celebrate the 55th anniversary of then Senator John F. Kennedy's speech, which took place on the steps of this very building that we're in right now. So the University of Michigan really has this legacy with the Peace Corps, and a couple students were there that night. There were actually thousands of students there that night, but a couple of them were really instrumental in starting the Peace Corps, getting a lot of petitions and a lot of momentum behind it. Started a student organization that basically followed Kennedy and a lot of his staff around and kind of pestered him enough until he decided to, through executive order, start the Peace Corps. So it was the 55th anniversary. So I wanted to just give a little bit of an overview. First I'll introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my experience in Ethiopia. And then I'll definitely try to touch on Audrey's kind of talking points here. So I served in Ethiopia from 2011 to 2013 as a conservation natural resource management specialist. I was an environment volunteer basically. So a lot of what I did was food security related. I did a lot of permaculture design. I worked with ecotourism business, so community development kind of from a business standpoint. I also did a lot of environmental education, and like most Peace Corps volunteers, I got talked into teaching English as well. So Peace Corps, as you'll realize, the more you talk about, the more you learn about what it is. We do have 6 specific sectors, but that being said, there are also a lot of opportunities to do secondary projects that have absolutely nothing to do with your sector. So that being said, English teaching, I was an environment volunteer and ended up teaching some English. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So our sectors are health, education, agriculture, environment, youth development, and community economic development. And like I said, there are a lot of opportunities to kind of dive into other areas depending on what your community needs. I pulled out 3 specific positions that are available and up on the website right now that I'll talk over real quick. How many people are seniors right now? Great, good handful. So for seniors, starting to look into the application process, the next deadline is January 1st, and then after that it will be March 1st. So the January 1st deadline is really focusing on departures from about July to September of next year, and then it's always kind of rotating, right? So there should be a new slew of positions available on the website within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. But 3 positions I wanted to highlight. So there's an agriculture extension advisor position in Benin. Requires French. There are 14 positions available, and it does require a bachelor's of science or a bachelor of art in any field with interest in agriculture. And I wanted to bring up these types of positions because a lot of people have heard a lot of things about the new application process with Peace Corps, and although it is more competitive, there are a lot of positions that you don't have to have really specialized skills to still apply for, right? So you might not have to have this really robust Spanish or French speaking skills, right? But you'll still be really competitive for these positions. So this one there's kind of supplementary skills that we'd want to start looking at, and I can talk a little bit more about resume reviews that we do. But if you have like experience gardening, tree nursery work, tree care, you grew up on a farm, stuff like that, you actually want to put that on your resume. It's very applicable for the Peace Corps. Raising chickens, rabbits, that kind of stuff, normal stuff that U of M students do. So the other position one other position I wanted to highlight is there's a secondary English education volunteer position in the Philippines. So for this one specifically, there is no language requirement. So I served in Ethiopia, and when I went to Ethiopia, I had 0 language experience in Amharic, which is the national language. Ended up learning a language called Tigrinya, which is only spoken in the northern part of the country, and I showed up with 0 language. So that's one of the things. This Peace Corps is really, really great at training, and I'll touch on that in a second. So for this position in the Philippines, like I said, no language, a BA or a BS in any discipline with a strong desire to teach English. And Audrey mentioned TEFL. ELI, these different positions, or a lot of the experience you can get by doing some of these other shorter term study abroad, volunteering abroad, internship experiences. You'll be able to get those skills, which will actually be able to transfer right into Peace Corps. It'll make you a really competitive candidate. I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that as well. So kind of backtracking a little bit, talking about my experience in Ethiopia. So in terms of training, kind of the types of training that Peace Corps offers you. So right before you go over, there's what's called staging. 2 or 3 days in the US, you just get to know the cohort of volunteers you're going over with. So it can range anywhere from, my group was 20 volunteers, it was pretty small, but all the way up to 99 volunteers. I think one of my friends served in Ukraine in the education sector, and it was a really large sector. Audrey, how big was your sector?
60.
60, yeah. So it can range kind of across the board there, but these are the people that you're going to be going over, and these are the people that will be sitting next to you, learning the language, learning the culture, learning how to use a squat toilet, all of these different things, going through these struggles, and yeah. But yeah, so staging is kind of that first little mini training, so to speak, get you ready just to go out, and then pre-service training is Peace Corps' kind of flagship training regiment there. So basically it's 10 to 12 weeks of very intensive training. You're living in a homestay, and for me, I was living in a homestay that spoke a different language than the language I was learning. So that's also really common depending on what country you go to. Ethiopia has over 80 languages, so it was near impossible to match me with a homestay that was going to be speaking the language that I was going to be speaking during my service. So during this pre-service training time period, you'll have language class 6 days out of the week. You'll also have cross-cultural class, so more of like really integrative type of learning activities. And these are all facilitated by language cultural facilitators, which are host country nationals. And then in addition to that, there's safety training, there's health training. So Peace Corps has a Peace Corps medical officer that's on staff 24/7, so you can call, just similar to a lot of these programs, you can call up and you have that really great benefit of having, you have your own little Peace Corps medikit, and then on top of that, you have the support of the doctors. Peace Corps also has a safety and security officer that is once again on call 24/7. These are the people that go into your community and they actually help find your house. They find your host organization. The house has to be up to a certain standard. There are a lot of like very strict standards that your community has to meet, your host organization has to meet, those kind of things. And then kind of in terms of fees, so Peace Corps is free. And I always want to emphasize free, right? So yes, there's a lot of opportunity cost in leaving and living abroad for 27 months. But that being said, Peace Corps gets you over there, they get you home. They also provide you with a monthly stipend that is more than enough to live in your communities. I think a lot of volunteers actually saved up a good amount of money to go traveling. You get 48 vacation days while you're serving. And in terms of kind of the other benefits that you get from Peace Corps that align with training is these things like, so you might come in with the TEFL certification or not, but the training that you get as an English teacher is going to be probably some of the best training you can get anywhere in the world. So you're going to be going in and you're going to be learning these really, really amazing techniques, and you're also going to be able to apply it then for 2 years, which is an amazing experience. For me, I got certified in permaculture design. So it's kind of this gardening technique that in the US it's actually quite an expensive certification. I got a couple friends in the Philippines right now that got scuba certified, which is pretty sweet. So there are a lot of opportunities there. So there's pre-service training, in-service training, happens 3 months into service, mid-service training, happens in the middle of your service, and then your close of service conference. So these are all times to get together. Peace Corps brings in experts to train you on different things, so you can really build up a lot of experience there. And yeah, so just generally addressing why travel, why study abroad. I've been traveling internationally since I was 3 or 4 years old. And there's this concept of international inertia with me that I just continuously want to travel more. I have one experience, and then I want to just have another experience. And I think the more that you travel, the more you realize how much you haven't traveled and how much more you want to go out and experience. I studied abroad in Australia. I went through, actually through Cross-Cultural Solutions to Costa Rica and worked at a wildlife refuge there. And that was a great springboard for me to go into Peace Corps. So I would just say for everyone out here, just say yes, just do it and get out there and go get those international experiences. I think that they're extremely beneficial. You'll be able to go into almost any job interview and you'll have a narrative, you'll have a story, a vignette that you'll be able to apply, answer a question through this great story from your experiences abroad. And then one other thing I'll touch on real quick is, in addition to that awesome fancy sticker that you'll be sticking on your water bottle, there's this little handout that I put on your seats. And this kind of breaks down a little bit more about what we do on campus here. So we do have an office on campus. It's in the International Center over in the Student Activities Building, which is right past the Cube here. We've got office hours every single day of the week. I say we because my colleague Molly is also a recruiter here, and we really work hard to work with you on resumes, the application process. If you're, a freshman or a sophomore, we want to work with you to get that volunteering experience. We'll put you in touch with programs like these here you see in front of you today, and really just how to gain those experiences to become a really competitive applicant. And then if you flip it over, there's a couple sessions. Tomorrow, actually in this exact same room at 7 o'clock, so same time as well, we'll be having another session, Peace Corps in Your Global Career. So Audrey will be on that panel. We'll be learning a little bit more about what you can do internationally with Peace Corps on your resume and how that will spur your international career. And we have a couple information sessions there. So don't hesitate to shoot us an email if you have any questions about resume, timing, Peace Corps in general, and living abroad, traveling.
Great. Good evening. How are you all doing? Tired? Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm sure you have homework and other things like that you could be doing. So I appreciate you coming to learn about the various opportunities there are to volunteer or teach overseas. My name is Stephen Bush, and I'm the manager of Teach Abroad programs at CIEE. You might be familiar with CIEE from the world of study abroad. Anybody heard of it in the world of study abroad? So CIEE is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization that was established more than 65 years ago. And it's a leading organization in international education, both inbound programs, bringing people from other countries to the United States, and also outbound programs. Study abroad is one of the largest outbound programs, but Teach Abroad is another one. So when Ben asked you all who here is a senior, quite a few of you raised your hands. Could I see again? Quite a few of you, and that's probably why you're here in the room tonight. But when he asked that question, it really brought me back to my senior year. And I was sitting here thinking about kind of where I was in life when I was a senior. And to be honest, I was pretty overwhelmed trying to figure out what I was going to do next. Because when you're in school, starting from kindergarten, you're kind of on the train, and every year you move on to the next grade. And it goes all the way through college for some people. And then you get to graduation and you think, okay, what's next for me? And I think it's daunting. I think it's easy to think that whatever you do next is going to determine the rest of your life. And I think in many ways it does, because it'll create opportunities for you, but it doesn't limit what you can do. And I think going overseas is a great step to take. Having an international experience, because it won't limit what you can do after that, but it will give you a lot of skills to use in whatever you choose to do as a career, or whatever you pursue afterwards. So I had studied abroad in Egypt, and then I decided finally when I was graduating from college that I wanted to go back to Egypt because I really had a powerful experience there and learned a lot. So I went back as a volunteer initially, and then I taught for 1 year at a private school in Cairo. And that experience ultimately led me to Middle East studies. I went on to UT Austin and did a degree in Middle East studies. And then that led me to working in Jordan with CIE in the Middle East. And now I'm working with CIE in Portland, Maine. So, I never could have foreseen, where it would take me. But teaching and volunteering overseas really gave me a lot of skills. It helped me learn how to work with people from other cultures. And I think that's relevant whether you're in a foreign country or in the United States. Working with someone who's from the same country as you, but probably has a different cultural background. So that's just one example of how volunteering or teaching overseas can give you skills that you take on in life and you use wherever you end up. So yeah, for me it was an important experience and something I really enjoyed. But I want to talk a little bit about CIE's Teach Abroad programs. Is anyone here already considering teaching overseas? Some people. Okay. So we offer programs to teach English abroad. We currently have 9 programs. They're pretty evenly split between Asia, where we have programs in China, Thailand, Vietnam, and South Korea, and then also Latin America. We have programs in Mexico, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and Chile. And then our largest program is in Spain, where we send hundreds of language and culture assistants every year to serve as assistant teachers in public schools in Spain. So that's where we have programs. In some cases, participants are assistant teachers like they are in Spain. In other cases, you would be a lead teacher. And we have both paid positions and volunteer programs. The volunteer programs tend to be short-term, and we have our volunteer programs in Mexico, Peru, and also in Spain. And then the paid positions tend to be long-term programs because you're actually going to a school as an employee. And for obvious reasons, schools like to hire people knowing that they can stick around and there's some consistency. And so for the paid programs, the pay ranges, but I'd say on the low end it's about $800 or $900 a month. And then some countries like South Korea, it's quite a bit more. South Korea, the pay is approximately $2,000 a month, and many of the programs in Asia provide housing. So you can end up saving quite a bit of money and paying off some student loans, which certainly doesn't hurt. So those are some of the options in terms of where you can go and what how the programs are organized. CIE does have program fees, and that's because we provide support before you go and then in country. So the average program fee is about $1,900, and then it can be higher on programs where you're taking intensive language classes. So for example, with the language and culture assistant positions in Spain, we offer the chance for participants to do a 2-week or 4-week homestay and take intensive Spanish classes before they start their teaching position. And so obviously the fee is higher for that. So, what does this fee cover? Why would you pay a program fee? Well, in our case, with our organization, we provide extensive support before you leave. So we assist with the visa process. We have an online pre-departure course that we provide. It's a month-long course that helps prepare you before you even take off. Prepares you for the practical realities of living in the country where you're going. Helps prepare you for the professional aspects of the program. So what is your role going to be as a teacher? What's the educational system like where you're going? And then there's also an intercultural component. So the purpose of that component is to help prepare you for working effectively in another culture. So learning about yourself, your own culture, where you come from, learning about the culture where you're going, and then how to bridge cultural differences. Once you're in country, we have an in-country orientation, and then there's in-country staff who are there to assist you 24/7 if anything comes up. If you have a medical emergency, if you're struggling to adjust and you need someone to talk to or help you find a counselor, if you are having trouble with your employer, CIE can help mediate to some degree. So those are some of the services we provide. I guess I should also mention that it includes INEX travel insurance, international insurance, which is for an entire year. So even if you go on a short-term program, you have international insurance for a year, and it covers you wherever you go. So if you're teaching in Thailand and you go to Vietnam and happen to be in an accident there, the insurance would cover you. So that is a brief summary of our programs and the support we provide. But I want to touch on one of Audrey's questions, which was, what should people consider? And I think it's important to consider what degree of support you need. So if you're interested in teaching overseas, there's ways you can go by yourself and find a job, when you're on site. Maybe you studied abroad in a country and you feel confident going on your own and then finding a teaching position. That's great. Go for it. There's also recruiters. There's a lot of recruiters who provide placement in teaching positions, and they don't charge program fees. And they also don't provide any support once you're in country. So you get a teaching placement and then you're on your own. But if you feel like you would need, or you would like the peace of mind of having support, then it would make sense to go with an organization like CIE or Peace Corps that provides extensive support. But ultimately, I think you should also be ready to be challenged. Who here has studied abroad? I think studying abroad is, can be an incredibly powerful, transformative experience. I do think that teaching abroad will push you in a way that studying abroad probably didn't push you. You're not there as a student who has the luxury of just kind of leaving after a few months or retreating to the American bubble, which can sometimes often exists on study abroad programs. But you're working as a full-time employee, and you're responsible to your supervisor, who may be from that host culture. And you're really going to have to navigate cultural differences. So for example, when I was teaching in Egypt, I didn't recognize it at first, but later when I reflected on it, I realized I was experiencing real differences in communication styles, much more indirect communication styles than I was used to. I was also experiencing more hierarchy than I was used to. I was coming from a culture where I expected a little bit more egalitarianism and equality between supervisors and employees. And as an employee, that was hard to deal with. You have to deal with these sort of real life issues, and it can be very challenging. But I think through that, you really can learn. You can learn a lot. So I'd recommend, if you're up to the challenge, I recommend going for it, which is a similar call to action that's been said by everybody up here. So thank you for your time, and maybe I'll see some of you afterwards or tomorrow. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. You did a great job tonight, and I think we're going to open it up for questions really quickly, just a quick shout out to the, this is a Michigan program, LSE International Internship Program. They also do teaching opportunities. They have teaching opportunities in Morocco, Peru, Turkey, France, and Mexico. So just a quick shout out to them. They do have office hours 10 to 1 in the LSE building just over there. So, but now we definitely have time for some questions if you have them. So yeah, I think I'll open it to the floor.
Come on, juicy questions.
You've answered all of their questions. I mean,
It's
we have
impossible.
another-
It's impossible.
Sure.
I have a question for cross-cultural solutions.
Sure.
What does it mean to have a UN charter? Can you talk more about
What does it mean to?
that? To have a UN charter.
Oh, okay. The question is, what does it mean to have a special charter? It means that, that's a good question. It means that we're recognized by the UN because of a certain level of standards and qualities, ethical practices, transparency, effectiveness, it's sort of like the big old stamp O approval, right? Not saying that the UN, sometimes I think, is that a good thing to get from the UN? Is it a bad thing to get from the UN? But it's meant that it's a nod in our direction saying, you know, this is a group that does good and does it well. We also are part of an organization that's called the Bridge Building Coalition. Building Bridges Coalition? Building Bridges Coalition. I always get that confused. And it's a subgroup of the Brookings Institution. And Brookings is American foreign policy think tank, basically, in DC. And we're one of the groups that inform around best practices. So we've been around a lot, we've sent a lot of people, and we're pretty diverse. And so other organizations have a tendency, as they're like new, to reach out to us and say, what did you do with your safety plan? And you know, and how did you tackle this? So we share that information. And it's cool that you went on a program in Costa Rica, because I'm going there next week.
It's a beautiful place.
I've never been, so I'm psyched. But I think one of the ways to sort of look at the panel is to think about what I call, have you ever heard the term scaffolding? You scaffold someone through. It's sort of when you break down a series of steps, if you're going to teach someone something, like when you're tying a shoelace, no, you don't just go, you try it. You say, take this and then push this here. And when you look at all the people up here in the organizations, each one will have sort of a sweet spot, something that it does probably better than anybody else. And when we're saying, you know, what level of support do you need? And one, assume that you might be able to figure that out on your own. But my experience is people often assume they don't need support, and boy, do they. And that goes back to what I was saying about the woman in Cape Town, is if you're going to be working in Spain, or if you're going to be working in France and something happens to you, there's an infrastructure and a society that is resourced enough that the likelihood is you're going to get your needs met somehow. But if you want to work in really vulnerable communities, from my experience, really make sure that you are a self-contained unit. Because anything that you have to reach out for will impact that community. And people are so proud when you come and you want to help. They're so proud, and they don't want to see anything happen to you. And they will spend everything they have, and they will, you know, give away their last bit of food to make sure that you're okay. But imagine if volunteers did that over and over and over again. And there are parts of the world where this has been the case. Like the show up uninvited, I'm here to help. Ask permission, work at somebody else's direction, and take care of your own needs if you're going to go alone. That's really, really important, because your underestimation of what you need is literally can taking the bread out of somebody else's mouth. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I hear. So that's something that I'm thinking about.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, I think the panelists, we can stick around for maybe the next couple of minutes. So, feel free to come up and ask personal questions, or be sure to visit them at the International Opportunities Fair tomorrow from 2 to 6 upstairs in the ballroom. Okay. Thank you all for coming.